And Championship takes sedan racing to the leading edge of technology. Greg Crick's car is a Formula Brabham in disguise. This Honda Prelude has pushrod front suspension just like a Formula Brabham car. Look at the suspension units around here. Absolutely sensational state-of-the-art stuff. Now Crick's car is leading the championship. By comparison, the car that's coming second is almost rudimentary. Dom Beninka's car still uses an engine placed at the front of the motor car, and it's a 2-litre Alfa Romeo engine. Turbocharged, of course, but it's sensational that this car, which is more than 10 years old, is actually still at the front of the field. And Greg Crick, why would it be that a car like this can be giving a car like yours such a hard time?
Dominic started off the championship very well at Sandown. It's a very, very fast car, but the 2-litre turbo actually has more power than our V8. So on the circuit like Sandown, where it wasn't such a handling circuit, Dominic managed to win the first 2 races there. I think development's a big thing. They've got the car very well sorted out, and as the development goes on with our car, I'm sure that it'll get faster and faster.
Greg, your car is the last one ever to be built by Elfin in Australia. Just how complex is it and how difficult is it to set up?
It's been very difficult for us. It's been a big learning curve. It's basically learning how to set up an open-wheeler car, John. Yesterday we had problems. We had a front pushrod 3 millimetres out in the suspension, and it just ruined the handling of the whole car. So it's very finicky and it's very touchy to set up.
After 4 rounds in the Australian Sports Sedan Championship, 2 at Sandown, 2 previously at Eastern Creek, it is Greg Crick and the Honda leading on 50 points from Dom Beninka, just 4 points behind on 46. Gary Scott, who's now got a new car to replace the old V12 Jaguar, back on 35, but should be more competitive. Des Wall's not far behind him, the man that's taken pole position today. Brian Smith, who was bumped back when they revised his time, the West Australians, on 30. Mick Monterosso on 28. A really tight championship as they face up to the 5th and 6th rounds today.
Des Wall, an unexpected pole position after Brian Smith was bumped from pole this morning.
Yes, we're very happy with the time. We've got a lot more horsepower than we had at the previous meeting. We had an oil pressure problem as well last time, but Alan Felsh has given us a great engine and Bob Tyndall's done a great job on the car.
In fact, you're 1.9 seconds faster than you were this time last meeting. That's sensational.
Yeah, we're very pleased with it. We can get a good start. We hope to have a good race.
But you've got a huge grid around you. What are you going to do about them?
We're going to race tight and close with them, and I think it'll be an interesting event.
Lining up for the 5th round of the Australian Sports Sedan Championship at Eastern Creek. It's 12 laps, 47.16 kilometres. Des Wall has taken pole position in his car number 48 over Greg Crick by 100th of a second. 1:32.64 to a 32.65. Brian Smith at a 32.73 takes up the 3rd grid position in car 5. Mick Monterosso very quick off the line, and the little lightweight Escort is in car 69. Gary Scott then, big booming V12 Jaguar, 34.49. Dominic Beninka, 35.13. Terry Shield, efficient little Mazda, not a lot of power but light, 35.54. And Ian Luffin, a new car, 35.85. Bob Jolly, 36.07. And Kerry Bailey, 37.01. Barry Jameson, 37.31 and 37.72 to Keith Carling. That's pole position. Des Walls in car number 48, ready to blast away when he unleashes 560 horsepower. Greg Crick on his outside really has a single-seater car with a bit of a body on it. It's virtually, and he bobs down, he doesn't get away. Monterosso blasts the 2nd row of the grid. Gary Scott goes with him. Finally, Des Wall gets going. Gary Scott can't go on with the job, and Greg Crick wakes up that the race is on, and he moves away. And finally, not going anywhere, is Terry Shield in car 11, the little RX-7.
Actually, good start from Monterosso. The car is incredibly light and obviously puts its power down well. Actually, Crick sat there with all the tyres smoking and just no forward motion. He just gave it too many revs on the line. I think there's a fair bit of poetic license used with these cars. When you call that car an Escort, I'd say it'd be fairly loose term.
Scott blasted through well, but then faded, came out in 6th place finally, and going back into the pits is Terry Shield in the RX-7. Great shame. There he is.
Yeah,
good little car. It's only had 4 outings. Light, well driven, nimble, well set up. There's Crick looking for a way round. He's 4th at the moment. He needs 3rd, and he's got it.
Just trying to sneak up the inside. He's gotten through on the Alfred Smith. That car is a very new car, an incredibly sophisticated car. It has all the Formula One type suspension underneath it and puts power down very well out of slow corners. As you can see, Des Wall's Supra now starting to wear him down a little bit as the race gets on, and I think Wall's car took a little bit to get off the line. This thing was absolute rocket ship off the line.
It's in the area of, I think, about 800 kilos too, and the Supra isn't.
Yeah, that's right.
Supra never has been.
They're beautiful cars. Whether saying this is a Supra is a fairly loose statement.
If you buy a Supra, you get a lot of motor car because you get about 1.5 tons or 1.6 tons. Not that this has much of a passing resemblance to that as a Honda. An alleged Honda Prelude is coming right up onto him, pulls out at the last moment, and now at very high speed indeed is trying to funnel it into the corner at the end of the straight. Crick does a good job, so too does Des Wall.
These cars have a very big moment on the brakes at the end of this straight. They've got to go down a gear or two for the big sweeper, and it turns into a few braking duels just at the end of the straight. Wall's gone very wide there again. That corner can sneak up on you, as you can see, and if you don't get the apex right, you run really wide.
This is the Rover. Car number 11, I think it is.
Yeah, it was used to rally crossing. He's just starting to prove it.
Yeah, not car 11, but it is the Rover.
Yeah. He's just trying to start it. Obviously, he's got a fire in the exhaust. Yeah. He's away. As Dominic's right onto him now, and I'd say there's going to be a change of place soon. He's a young guy, Dominic Dominica, comes from a long line of motor racing people in his family. They've got an engineering shop in Melbourne, and they do a lot of the dyno tuning for many of the people in the motor racing fraternity. Had a start with Colin Bond a couple of years back at Bathurst in his Sierra Turbo as well. All over him now. We're just interested to see how they go down the straight, because Benica's up alongside, bit of acceleration, Wall's falling back. Easy.
Greg Crick's gone out to a 9.5-second disadvantage from Monterosso, and it's just 5.5 seconds back to these people. Crick must have a problem, surely, as I think Des Wall has, and a bit of a chance of Dom Bonica in 52, the yellow car, and Brian Smith in the red car 5, of catching Greg Crick in the Honda. As I say, he's down to 9.5 seconds behind Monterosso. Monterosso's lagging in the point score. He's on 28, where Crick has 50. But be a real aid to Monterosso if these guys were to catch Crick, the championship point score leader, and pull him back.
I'm just wondering whether it's not whether the other cars, the two Alphas, just getting a little bit better as the circuit wears in, or then the race goes on, they'd be more consistent, whereas the other bigger, heavier cars have a bit more of a problem.
17.7 seconds, the advantage over the start-finishing line at the end of the 11th lap. For Mick Monterosso, the man who looks to build substantially on his 28 points that he has in the championship as they went into this 5th round. Hauling in Greg Crick, but Crick only one placing, albeit a lot of time behind Monterosso. Not able to be caught, I suspect, by Dom Bonica, running in 3rd place. And also Brian Smith for West Australia. So Monterosso well on towards the checkered flag on his 12th and final lap, doing the last few kilometres of the 47.2 kilometre journey around Eastern Creek. And a very nicely run race indeed. Very well done by Mick Monterosso. Well driven in a well sorted out car, light, simple, well developed, and then very well used, and ultimately an effortless victory after a very good start, but not qualifying so well. He was back in 3rd place. Greg Crick finishes 20.6 seconds away in 2nd place, and just over 3 seconds to 3rd place Dom Bonica, with Brian Smith bringing up 4th.
While the Brabhams have front and centre in the pit area, down the back here are the 19-year-old HQ Holdens. But the competition is just as keen, with these old boilers capable of 180 kilometres an hour down the straight. So, Charlie, what's your love of HQs?
Oh, nice old motor car, pride and joy, nice Australian motor car, good class of racing.
Charlie D'Aquino is not your average HQ race driver, but then again, nor is his car.
Yeah, I've got a lot of pride in things I do. Like to keep things tidy and neat.
Charlie's in the police force. In fact, he used to be a highway patrolman, so he knows his way around the track.
No, I'd say that for me there's no hoon factor. I'd say that it's mainly just have good fun. It's a family thing. I involve my family and we just have a great time out every time we go to a race day.
Having only driven in the HQ competition since last October, Charlie's done well, finishing 4th in the last round at Eastern Creek.
There's a Division 1 and Division 2 in HQ racing at the moment. I'd like to take out the Division 2 if I can in the point score.
And what about his machine? Certainly the best dressed and looked after in the field. It cost $8,000 to get it on the track, and Charlie expects a season's racing to cost under $15,000, which must surely be the real advantage of this type of racing. It's cheap.
Every time I come out I seem to improve, so I'm quite happy with my performance.
A massive 30-car grid in the HQ Holden race, 15 rows of them. And so looking just at the top 12, it's Gary Cook on pole position. Similarly experienced to Peter Hopwood in car 19, both of them veteran motor race drivers. Frank Kleinig's in 77 and Russell Becker in 22. The third row sees Chris Walker in 44 and Charles D'Aquino, the policeman, in 41. Then it's Ken Chesham in 15 and Paul Aitken in 69. Stephen Coulter's in 7, Ken Talbot in 27, and finally Will Cook in 16 and Colin Swinnerton in 24. Everything in readiness for some of the craziest racing you'll want to see. It's 10 laps around Eastern Creek, 39.3. They're all HQ Holdens. That's Peter Hopwood. He's driven a lot more respectable cars than this, quicker cars, and he's too an ocean-going yachtsman. He's done about 6 Sydney to Hobarts. Gary Cook's the man that he's up against on the front row of the grid. Frank Kleinig and Stephen Wright on the second row of the grid. Kleinig in 77, Stephen Wright in 22, Chris Walker in 44, and Charles D'Aquino, the policeman, in 41 is on the third row as they get the go sign. And some 30 of them blast away. That's only about 10% of all the racing HQs in Australia, just a few of which were taxis once a long time ago.
Absolutely. You see the green car getting down the outside, sneaking through. I don't know who he is, but he's very brave. Using a little bit of grass on the inside, grass on the outside, dirt everywhere.
He probably saw a commissionaire.
There's a crash happening. That's what you get when you get on the dirt and you haven't got any grip.
Frank Kleinig.
And that's Gary Cook just gone straight out the window. He's just lost position. And looks like Hoppy's in control.
Yep, Peter Hopwood's darted into the lead and said, thanks very much. We did say 20 seconds ago it would be crazy.
There's a few more extra lines being used around the corners.
And 11 there is Laurie Gatt.
A lot of varying lines being taken and a few more lanes of road being used that weren't intended to be.
Let's have a look at this. Down the inside, Frank Kleinig thinks jolly good spot for braking is on the grass. No way, you can't wash off speed. And Gary Cook's the victim, along with a few others as well, not to mention some of the outer parts of Eastern Creek Raceway. But ahead of them all is Peter Hopwood, up here in 19. Thank you very much, said Hoppy. Little guy.
He's driven everything from single-seaters through to I remember him driving a giant Ford Galaxy in Appendix J, or was it a Chevy Bel Air? Something that was about 10 mile long.
Yes, and wheels spinning sideways everywhere. He's driven quick sports cars. He's driven Formula Pacifics.
So a very experienced bloke, Hoppy, and a nice guy. Goes racing for the enjoyment of it. This looks like George Street on a Friday evening with all the cabs coming down the road.
It sure does. And I'm always astonished at the times they do, because they're 202 Holden engines, 3-speed gearboxes, drum rear brakes, yet they get round here in qualifying in about 2 minutes 1 second. Remarkably good time for old cars. John's Junkyard. 18, Gavin Croft. Round he goes.
Perfect sponsor.
So Peter Hopwood completes 4 laps. Ahead of Charles D'Aquino in second place. In 44 in third is Chris Walker. In 22 in fourth place is Russell Becker.
Through the big sweeper, I'd say it'd be flat out in third gear as well, still holding it absolutely. And a bit of dirt, never hurt anybody.
Russell Becker discovering that this is enormous fun as he gets down inside D'Aquino, and he won't have the gap there all the way round the corner, and he'll end up having to tuck in behind as he does now. So ahead of this lot is only Peter Hopwood in car number 19. He's galloping away. There he is. Then you see this battle. And the other thing about it, John Smith, a bit too rare these days in racing, as we see 44 now up into second place, Chris Walker ahead of D'Aquino and then Becker, that's second, third and fourth place, is that they actually change place. It's wonderful.
They do, and they're very aggressive the way they go about it. There's a little bit of paint swapping goes on, but I think that's inevitable when your cars are driving this closely. I think it's terrific racing. You can just see what they're riding about.
And would you agree that whilst you don't want people biffing and barging and making motor racing any more dangerous than it need be, some aggression is a good thing, and people trying to get by and trying to force their way in and so on is a good thing.
Oh yes, I think you've got to have it. You've got to have aggression if you're the person behind. Loose arms
half a turn of opposite lock and then gathers it back up. And here's some more. Have a look at it. Oh dear.
Everybody seems to want to have the big go under brakes.
John Lay. Yeah. Everybody a hero in the slowest corner on the track. John Lay this time.
Actually, I think Becker's moved past D'Aquino as well, so they've shuffled the black Holden back one more spot. As opposed to modern day technology when everybody's looking for anti-lock brakes, here we got drums on the back.
Closer to dinner plates than discs, I think. About as useful.
Here's the move.
Becker's got it this time.
Here's the move. He's got the big toe down the straight. And should leave the gate open for D'Aquino if he's smart enough. Yeah.
But trying to go down his inside was Chris Walker.
And here's the move. If D'Aquino's smart enough, he can jam himself up the inside.
Yep. No future there for Chris Walker.
No.
But D'Aquino didn't get in where he should have.
There's an old statement in motor racing, it's outside suicide. I think it applies in these cars.
If you go offline in these, it could take you sort of the better part of the morning to get back online. Talking of offline. Isn't it wonderful? Have you ever seen so many people find so many ways to make tyres not squeal but moan? We've seen him before. That's John Lay. He's been round once. Well, he's just sideways this time. He's getting it under control.
He's just after the publicity, I'm sure. He's trying to give his sponsor good value for money.
6 laps completed. They're on their 7th. Please don't let the race end. So 7 seconds lead over this trio, because there's only a fraction of a second separating the 3 of them in 2nd, 3rd and 4th place. Peter Hopwood, though, doing very well, and Russell Becker really not able to break away. A man behind is so aggressive, isn't he?
His arms and legs then, he didn't know where he was going. D'Aquino, meanwhile, has sort of flatched onto this. He should be able to get a better run down the straight after all of that. Drawing him alongside. Whether he can go on with it's another point. There it is. He's shuffled his way past.
Becker's broken away and brought back 0.3 of a second, 6.7. The gap between him and Hopwood. He's getting out after him, but he has only laps 9 and 10 in which to try and peel back some of that big margin. So, too late.
Incredible limitations to the cars. They weigh them at the end of the race, car and driver, and they have to meet the minimum weight standards. If they don't, then they're out. The same thing with the engines are sealed, and camshaft profiles are checked. The carburetor specifications, all of that is checked.
And Peter Hopwood victorious over Russell Becker in 2nd place, 3rd place Charles D'Aquino, and 4th place Chris Walker in 44. The winning margin 4¼ seconds finally.
Peter Hopwood, congratulations, another HQ win. Just how difficult are these things to drive?
Well, they're actually very easy to drive, but like most racing cars, extracting that last tenth of a second out of them is quite demanding.
You've driven everything from the predecessors to Formula Brabhams through monstrous great American V8 things. Where does this rate in your list of racing cars?
Well, it's nowhere near as demanding as an open-wheeler with aerodynamic ground effects and things like that, but it doesn't really make a lot of difference what the car is. It's just as hard to get to the top of, to its top potential, irrespective of what it is, and that's what makes these a fantastic budget racer.
So is a win by 4 seconds down to natural brilliance, or is there something in the car?
No, actually there was something in the rear vision mirror that contributed to that, because I always keep an eye on where everyone is on the first lap, and I was on the left-hand side of the track, and out of my mirror I could see somebody trying to pass me on the left, which meant they had to be in the dirt, and there's no way they were going to stop. So I stopped early and let the accident get out of the way, and that's what happened.
It's certainly a change of pace for Eastern Creek Brabham driver Warwick Brooklyn. Back in 1985, he skippered his father's yacht Apollo to victory in the Sydney to Hobart yacht race.
Well, actually, I've been driving for about 10 years. I mean, I first started about 10 years ago in go-karts, but I wasn't exactly the most popular boy when I started all this with the family, and so the progress has been a bit spasmodic at times.
Warwick's just returned from driving Formula 3000 racing cars in Europe and the US, and is proud to be part of the Eastern Creek racing team.
I just want to try and make a success of this, and try and have a bit of a long life with the team. You know, I'm happy here, and we've got a few other projects on the boil.
But Warwick isn't only driving here at Eastern Creek, he's also setting up a driving school academy with the aim of giving our young drivers some skill and some common sense out on the road.
You know, I commute a couple of hours a day, and sometimes it's just horrifying, the attitude that I see. You know, someone walks into a lift, you go, oh, after you, sir, no, after you, sir, and we're all polite. We get into a motor vehicle, and it's like war out there,
Warwick's one-day driving course offers basic but important training for drivers.
Firstly, it's the correct mental attitude. I mean, unless you've got that, people have very little chance or no chance of ever becoming a competent driver. The second thing that we try and get across to people, and we actually show them practically, is the correct way to sit in the car. If you just look at my legs, they're spread apart for balance. My hands are spread apart, so I've got a good control over the steering wheel. Then the third thing we do is we take people through emergency simulated situations. We're just trying to give them the skills that are required to hopefully, that will hopefully one day maybe save their lives or their lives of their families and friends, and really that's what we're on about.
While drag racing can be seen in other states, it's been 8 years since the sport was thundering down the straight in New South Wales. But that's all about to change. Enter Kevin Prendergast. Originally from Perth, he obviously loves the smell of nitro in the morning.
So Kevin, what's a nice guy like you involved in drag racing?
Well, it's a very, very good sport. It's a business like any other. It's exciting, it's a show, it's spectacular. It needs the attention, the dedication and the professionalism that every sport requires these days to be successful. And subsequently, it's my business, it's what I do, and it's my life. So we look forward to drag racing being at Eastern Creek.
Kevin's dream is for dragsters, both professional and street racing, to become a regular at Eastern Creek, putting on nighttime package shows.
The excitement for drag racing is that it's a very unique motorsport. You will see the fastest and most powerful sorts of vehicles that are in motorsport in the world. The current top fuel dragster produces approximately 4,000 horsepower.
Drag racing, they say, is like accelerating down the runway in a jet fighter.
Top fuel dragster goes from 0 to 100 mile an hour in the length of a cricket pitch. Now that is outstanding.
All in readiness now for round 6 of the Australian Sports Sedan Championship. It's 12 laps at Eastern Creek, 47.16 kilometres, and a lot of problems fixed since the last round here. A lot of the cars had tyre troubles. Crick threw a chunk of tyre out of his. Des Wall had problems, and Crick gets off the line pathetically badly. He's broken an axle, I would say. No, he just bogged down, and he steered out of the way, and now he is trying to do a heroic chase. Gary Scott's in there. Well, he's in 4th place in the Jaguar. Here's Crick, tail end of the field, to the man who's already been bumped from the championship lead. Not quite. He's on 65. Dom Beninca's on 58. Mick Monterosso, here leading, is on 48, but could, with a good result this time, particularly if Crick has trouble getting through the field, go to the lead in the championship.
Gary Scott having a big go up up the inside in the Jaguar too, and he may have just made it through. Yes, he has. A lot of smoke. It's a brand new car, and I'd say he's still trying to sort out a few teething problems, but he's well and truly doing well. A bit of a lock-up going in, and a lot of smoke coming out.
He was alternating which wheels would lock up, and he picked most of the inside ones, most of the light ones.
Oh, he won't see the distance out with smoke coming like that. It's not a good start. Big car, long wheelbase car. They've put a new chassis, new bodywork, much lighter. Because that car would be approaching, the old car would be approaching sort of 15 years old, I would say.
Yes. Built by John McDonald.
John McCormack.
John McCormack, at least, yeah. Here's Crick going nowhere, except saying, I need to give the boys some room before I get thumped very fast and hard up the rear end. So, Monterosso under more threat than he's been under in the last few races at Eastern Creek, but then suddenly breaks free and he gets more than a second down the straight. Des Wall's 3rd. Brian Smith's 4th in car number 5. Monterosso, as he comes down to the hairpin, has a 1.5 second lead over the rest of them. And Terry Shields diving down the inside of Des Wall.
Yeah, that's typical Terry Shields move. He's a pretty smart operator and knows how to get the most out of the car. It's a good little car and very light, well balanced.
Several hundred horsepower down on the others. A carburetted Mazda 13V engine, about 350 horsepower probably, up against mostly V8 fuel injected things that have got anything up to 550 horsepower. But it's light, it's well balanced and as well driven as the Jaguar goes to the pits. So 2nd place is Shield, 3rd Des Wall, 4th is Brian Smith.
Terry hanging on through the big sweeper. That's where his car's right now. From here on, the hardest point for Terry is the straight.
Broke a drive shaft in the start of the first race, and Gary Scott, a heroic 3.93 kilometres around Eastern Creek, but has all come to a very swift end, unfortunately, but showing a lot of potential. Shield 2nd place, Des Wall 3rd. You can almost hear the anger and the threat in these cars, can't you, John? The vibration. The ground nearly shakes when they thunder down the straight, doesn't it? They're really quick and ferocious.
The raw power of a big V8, there's nothing like the sound of one of these. You can hear it coming up.
That's Crick in there. I was wondering what the other red car was.
Crick's come right through the field after a dramatically bad start. He's worked right the way through the field. Well, he's about 5th position there, I would say.
That's incredible. Absolutely last off the line. Inside Brian Smith. He'll punch out down the right-hand side of Brian Smith now. Brian Smith's hanging on very well, I might say.
Take his car up there straight through. Good move.
A much older car than Greg Crick's, but nevertheless got through.
He's closed up on the back of Des Wall Supra, so we'll just see how they match each other down the straight. Oh, that little car of Crick is very quick in a straight line. He should be able to round up Terry Shield as well, which he's done. Same as Wall.
To Terry Shield as they went across the start-finishing line. It was 4.55 seconds from the leader, Monterosso. They've completed 3 laps. They have a 12-lap journey, so there's 9 remaining for Crick to narrow a 4.5-second gap to the leader. Monterosso, the race leader, behind them. The action fairly close. Still got a very nice, big, comfortable lead, Mick Monterosso.
You can see how far back in the car the Monterey is sitting. He's got an extended steering column. He's pushing himself right back in the car, try and balance out the weight, you know.
But it won't be enough to get him up into the series point score lead. Crick would get 15 from this, go to 80. Monterosso would get 20 and go to 68. So there'd still be 12 points between them.
Hello, he's past Crick.
Aha, that helps Monterosso. That's another 3 points towards Monterosso, because Crick goes from earning 15 to earning 12 now, from second to third place, although that argument's not over. They're on their 10th lap. So it had become 9 points only, the deficit of Monterosso to Crick in the championship. The Australian Sports Sedan Championship, 2 more rounds to be held at Eastern Creek, but also a round on 4th of August to be held at Malala Circuit in South Australia. Monterosso really has been faultless. It really is nice to see a sensibly run effort rather than a big budget effort come home with the prizes.
Yes, and they've done it well. They've done it with a lot of style and a mineral of fuss.
So down to the finishing line he goes for yet another win at Eastern Creek. Mick Monterosso in the little old Ford Escort, albeit with a big V8 shoved into it. Into second place comes home Des Wall in the Toyota Supra, ahead of Greg Crick in the Honda, who recovered superbly from having to pull off the track and get away from the grid absolutely dead last, to Terry Shields got a problem in the Mazda. He'll just get to the finishing line ahead of Brian Smith in car number 5. So that was another deserved result. Terry Shields deserved to finish there, and he just made it home. Monterosso's had a wonderful day. He's gone from 28 points at the start of this round to 50, held by Greg Crick, 22 points in arrears, to being just 9 points in arrears now. Mick Monterosso lagging by 9 in the Australian Sports Sedan Championship to that man in the Honda, Greg Crick from Tasmania.
First corner crash between Mark Scaife and Mark McLaughlin. The top wishbone of the rear suspension of McLaughlin's car has been bent and twisted, throwing the whole car out of wheel alignment. And Mark McLaughlin, just how difficult was it to drive?
Well, John, it introduced an understeer problem into the car, which meant that I had to work very hard to keep the pressure on Mark Scaife during the race.
Well, you were doing that and, in fact, harrying him in the corners.
Yeah, losing out a little bit round the back with understeer, and because of that he was able to get on the power a little bit earlier out the turns, but in certain areas I could keep the pressure on him.
His package is obviously very, very good. Is he beatable?
Oh, sure, he's beatable. There's nothing invincible. I think our lap times were just as quick and just as consistent, and I think it depends on who gets the jump and who gets the break in the early start. He's certainly not invincible.
Ready for 12 laps now, 47 kilometres. Tremendously fast, the fastest vehicles to race here at Eastern Creek. The light goes green, and it's a great start again by Paul Morris. Lurks through, Scaife covers Larkham down the inside and stops him coming through. So it is Morris looking for the outside run now. Not quite able to get it. Scaife first, Morris second, Larkham third.
A dreadful start by McLaughlin. He's running second, probably third last at this stage, going nowhere.
And Brian Sala a long way back as well. Car 2 in there, Mark Poole, slightly better placed than previously, but unfortunately for everybody trying to beat him, Scaife's got the jump.
Oh yes, and he's got a clear track in front of him, and he's got his head down, so I think it's going to be very hard to knock him off from here. He's opening a good gap immediately. Car's skating around a little bit. These tyres take a little bit to come onto the pace. They're a restricted tyre, and they take a little bit to get them up to proper operating temperature.
He has a 0.8 of a second margin already, and that is a lot of gap at this stage of the race.
Oh yes, he's starting to walk away with it. Morris doing a good job in second, but the other guys just aren't quite up to it yet. Scaife getting the power down, not driving well out of the corner. You can always tell that he's pointing his head down. Suddenly looks like he's looking at the floor of the car.
Morris doing a really good job, really impressed with the way he's coming to grips with his car. He's just 23 years old. He's 5th in the Motorcraft Formula Ford Driver to Europe Series, and suddenly in these 300 horsepower Formula Brabhams, he's looking the goods.
Yes, that's
When a person improves a lot between one outing and the next, you say he's starting to get to grips with it.
That's right. He's getting the hang of it, and he's doing a damn good job. Larkham is hanging on him this time too as well. So let's just hope that Larkham can improve on what happened last time when he had a spin at the first corner.
Absolutely heartbreaking for Mark McLaughlin. He's in 8th place from the front row of the grid. He has faded in 1 lap to 8th grid position. Here's the man that won the opening round, Mark Larkham. He put in a superlative performance then. It's Mark Poole in behind him. So it's a totally rewritten script this time. Everything's different. This man led early on for the first couple of laps in the previous round, round 2. Scaife was in behind him. This time,
it's Warwick Brooklyn in that car there. He's a little bit back, and you can see him being chased there very closely by McLaughlin. So I'd say McLaughlin's got a little bit of a problem on his hands. Maybe it could be a reoccurrence of the misfire that he had in practice.
This is an interesting nose that Greg Siddle's tried to imitate some of the Formula 1 cars. That big bowed nose and getting the wings forward. They're looking for more downforce in the corners without, funnily, any more drag in a straight line. It's not a pretty effect, but they hope that it does balance the car more. But now, after getting the front end working better, they're having to get the rear end working the way they want it. Mark Larkham, you couldn't meet a nicer, better presented young man, more dedicated to motor racing, although that goes for a few of the guys in this field. Rowan Onslow is a similarly classy sort of young guy. He, at the moment, is in behind McLaughlin in car number 5.
Here's a big go for Larkham now, down the outside. Morris has covered his ground, but obviously Larkham is looking the quicker of the two. Runs a little bit wider there, let the car push out, but doing a much, much better job this time.
After 3 laps, Mark Scaife has a 3.4-second lead, and that's in a 12-lap race. So Mark Larkham better get on with the job pretty swiftly, going round the outside there, trying to, and Paul Morris, but is literally impossible, almost impossible, unless you have a massive margin over the car you're trying to overtake.
Mark Larkham, actually, another ex-Formula 40. He won the, I think, the 1989 Drive of the Europe Series. He was a very improved driver, and he's obviously he surprised everybody in the last meeting. I don't think he surprised himself because he knew he always had it in him, and he's doing the job again today.
Had a spin down in that hairpin in the first race when the tyres were relatively cold. Now being threatened by Mark Poole, the South Australian, who was a very hot Formula V runner over there for a while, wasn't he?
Yes, and the son of a very hot Formula V runner as well. His father, Keith Poole, very well known in off-road circles in Adelaide, South Australia, and as well as for Formula V. And Mark, same thing, has done it hard. He's worked for the TAFE last year with these particular cars. He drove at Bathurst with me with the Toyota Supra last year, and acquitted himself very well.
Earns almost no money working over there at the moment on the car in the middle of the TAFE workshop where they have their motor racing section set up, and off comes a tear-off on his visor. He goes around lecturing to students, talking to them about suspensions and things like that, and I just think it's an outstanding way to enthuse young kids about the fine elements of design. As you see Larkham having a real go at Morris. Morris is holding him up without any question, but Larkham, I don't think, has a lot of power or speed spare to find his way around him.
Well, that's right. On this particular circuit, again, it is very difficult to pass. There's only about 3 or 4 places that you can even look like having to go. And if you cover your tracks, as we've seen in previous races and things, that it's so difficult to get past. And someone that may be only half a second slow, but he can just hold you up and bring you back to his pace. And if he doesn't want you to pass, well, that's stiff cheese.
I really am impressed by Morris, though. I'd like to see the others get past him in one sense, to try and get out after Scaife and see if they can rein him in a little bit. But Morris really has jetted forward in one meeting, and it's great to see. It's good to see talent emerging, which you very rarely see in the very expensive touring car ranks.
Oh, that's right. Morris racing under the Phoenix Motorsport banner with Mike Quinn. They've had a bit of a hard run with these cars. They haven't been the easiest cars to prepare and put together. They're fairly sophisticated, and I think they've done a marvellous job. There's Yachty, Warwick Brooklyn, and still with McLaughlin behind him, and still McLaughlin battling to keep ahead. He just can't quite get past anybody, and he's doing a lot tougher this time.
Scaife's lead at the end of 5 laps is some nearly 5 seconds. It's come back just a fraction. Morris holding second place. Scaife disappearing from view on the right there, and a spin at the hairpin onto the infield. It's Larkham from third place, hot on the heels of Morris's Red Shrike. He's gone again at the same spot as in the first heat today, and very nearly goes again. Probably the coating of dust on the warm tyres causing that. So with a new nose on his car, a new sponsor, looking for a better result here today, Mark Larkham having an absolutely awful time. So clearly the first round winner, and then in both races today having really big problems. Everything falling Mark Scaife's way at the moment. He came into this round on 35 points over Mark McLaughlin on 27, Mark Larkham on 26, Paul Morris on 20, and Mark Poole on 18. Well, you've seen Larkham slip well back. You've seen McLaughlin go back to almost nowhere. And Scaife's looking at another 20 points. So
yes,
Morris will pull up well. The man who's really stacked some points away for the day so far. We look closely there at Mark McLaughlin in the Thalgo car. Don't forget the Thalgo Big Question. That's a great competition that'll be resolved here at the fourth and final round of the TUI's Australian Drivers' Championship, as down the outside went Keith, not Keith Poole, Mark Poole. But great competition, a really interesting one, very relevant to motor racing. Decide which of the 7 vehicles are the quickest.
And it looks like Mark McLaughlin slipped past Brooklyn. And is closing rapidly on the back of the 2 cars in front of him. He's finally got it through. And look at the gap, he's just moved up straight away. So maybe a bit of a movement. It sounds like it's very flat, like it's got a misfire in the car. So that's the reason why he's so far back.
If that's his car, well, then it's not operating well. Bad luck, because I believe Ida Buttrose is up here today to have a look and see how her cars are going. Tony Blanche couldn't start. Mark McLaughlin got a poor start. But they are talented drivers, particularly McLaughlin. It's a well-run team.
I honestly believe, Will, that anybody in the first 4 of these guys, they're all doing it well, and there's no shortage of talent amongst any of them. Moving up on the back of them now. We'll just see what it'll be like down at the hairpin corner after the sweeper. Yes. Locked the brake, gone wide. Hasn't lost a great deal of ground. He was a bit lucky to get away with it because Brooklyn's starting to lurk back again.
He takes a very different line there. He takes a wider entry and a late apex, and he comes swooping in from a long, wide run out in.
Well, that is a good way to do it.
Car 11.
It's a good way to do it if you can get away with it, but invariably in traffic, someone will fill the hole up the inside. When you're the last cab off the rank like he is here, you can probably pick your line and not worry about it.
So what a great race we're seeing here for 2nd, 3rd and 4th place. Mark Scaife's gone away at the lead, hidden from them, but then it's Paul Morris, Mark Poole, and then Mark McLaughlin, and that's the gap over the 3 of them battling for 2nd place. Tremendous racing in the TUI's Australian Drivers' Championship, round 3 here at Eastern Creek. Morris and Poole and McLaughlin, and Morris has done it superbly well. Poole hasn't quite found the remedy, the way to get round him. He's going to have a go now, and McLaughlin's going to be in there too.
Well, that's just put the field back a little bit. They're starting to fall back to even towards Warwick Brooklyn now. There's no point in going down the outside each lap. I think you're just not going to pull any of that off, and obviously Morris is aware of that, and they can do that as much as they like. He's playing it very hard, Morris. Fair, but hard. When you're in front and leading a couple of cars like this, it's the cars behind have to make their own arrangements. So you can do what you like, and it's up to them to satisfy themselves.
Poole, 3rd place, and Morris there in 2nd. And that's what Poole wants, and McLaughlin would love it too. Look, McLaughlin's come into this round dropping 8 points behind Mark Scaife. And he's in 4th at the moment, and Warwick Brooklands in 5th.
See, McLaughlin had a better entry onto the straight then, much neater than Mark Poole, but I don't know whether he can capitalise it on down the straight. Here it is. He came on much tidier, and that's a result.
McLaughlin's got Poole.
Yes.
He hasn't yet got Morris. He has 3.9 kilometres remaining. Well-driven Mark McLaughlin. Beautiful entry there. Swooped in.
Now he's right on the back.
Right up onto the tail of Morris.
It's a very hard-fought race for second place, I'll give you that.
It's a beauty.
These guys know that they've done it hard.
And McLaughlin now with his chance of getting second place, dropping another 5 only to Scaife in the championship after starting this round some 8 behind him, could also so easily overcook it. Scaife runs out a little bit wide. Scaife's heading up to the top of the straight. The others are all coming down out of the hairpin. And it's still Morris from McLaughlin, from Poole, from Warwick Rooklyn. As Scaife comes down the straight at the end of 12 laps, it'll be 47.16 kilometres and another victory to Mark Scaife. This in the 3rd round of the Tooheys Australian Drivers' Championship at Eastern Creek. Flashes across the finishing line, a very convincing victory over Paul Morris, hanging on into second place. A good day for the young Queenslander, ahead of Mark McLaughlin into 3rd place, Keith Poole from South Australia into 4th, Warwick Rooklyn into 5th, Rowan Onslow there into 6th place in a very interesting race indeed.
Mark Scaife, congratulations. You've now won 2 out of the 3 rounds of the Australian Drivers' Championship with 3 rounds to go. It's going to be tough.
Will be tough. I think, you know, the next few rounds will probably be harder than today, and the first race was a very difficult race. The second race we got away with it a little.
Well, your start was absolutely incredible. The way you held out Larkham going down the straight the first time was just enormous.
Well, he got a little bit better start than me, and I had to do something about sort of squeezing him for room, so I didn't leave him much room to the inside.
Compared to the touring cars you normally drive, just what's the buzz of driving these Formula Brabhams?
Well, the cars are very, very fast around the back section of the circuit there, John, and, you know, the cars are the fastest car I've ever driven around this circuit, and fantastic to drive.
After 3 rounds of the Tooheys Australian Drivers' Championship at Eastern Creek, it's Mark Scaife clearly in the lead now on 55 points. Mark McLaughlin slipping to 39 and some 16 in arrears. Paul Morris, 35, a great day for him. Mark Larkham, a really disappointing day, 30 points. And Mark Poole on 28 in 50.